All right. Good morning.
Are you an established small business owner or aspiring entrepreneur? Would you like professional advice to help your business grow and succeed? Well, look no further. The Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center is the territory's #1 resource to move your business forward. Enjoy no-cost advising, low-cost training, and technical assistance from experts in both the public and private sectors. The VISBDC is nationally accredited and sustained by the University of the Virgin Islands and the U.S. Small Business Administration. Visit us at our locations on St. Thomas, St. John, or St. Croix, and follow us on social media at VISBDC. For easy access to all our training and networking events, be sure to join our newsletter and download the VISBDC app. The Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center, here to help your business start, grow, and succeed.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Greetings on behalf of the VISPDC network. Today, we are diving into cybersecurity with the UVI Information Services and Institutional Assessment Team. The reality check. It's the notification every IT manager and business owner dreads. A screen that tells you your files are encrypted and the clock is ticking. In 2026, ransomware isn't just a possibility, it's a statistical win. But a ransom note doesn't have to mean the end of your business. Today, we're moving from fair to a functional survival plan. Today's session, entitled The Ransomware Survival Guide, is about the three pillars of resilience: prevention, containment, and recovery. We're going to look past the headlines to give you the technical and operational steps needed to keep your data safe and your downtime to a minimum. Allow me to introduce today's presenter, Mr. Eric Patterson, and he is going to begin sharing his screen because he has a PowerPoint for us today. Eric Patterson is the Director of Network Operations at the University of the Virgin Islands. For over 36 years, he has been working with computers of all kinds, wired and wireless networks, cloud systems, and audio-visual systems integration. Mr. Patterson is responsible for the network and server environments at UVI, as well as the cybersecurity systems that keep the institution protected. Here's a friendly reminder to place your questions in the chat, and they will be addressed by the presenting team either directly in the chat or later during our question and answer segment. A copy of today's presentation will be attached to the post-survey email sent after this live event. We encourage you to take a few minutes of your time to briefly fill out the survey that lets us know how we're doing. This data is essential to us rendering these deliverables complimentary to you. So without further ado, Eric, the floor is yours.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Good to see you here, and I hope everybody is well. Today, the presentation is the Ransomware Survival Guide, Prevention, Containment, and Recovery. So as Sharika has mentioned, please put your questions in the chat. I will have a session for questions and answers when we're done, but please do let us know if you have any questions that are relevant as I go over each of these slides. So we have a lot to cover, so let's get started. Okay, so why is this important? And everybody should understand that you have a requirement to protect the security and safety of your customers and employees, their identities and private information. So it's pretty much a legal requirement that we take action to make sure that we've done everything that we can. Many people do, have financing through grants, or maybe it's a program that you work with, and a lot of people are going to need to know that you are keeping users' data safe. Sometimes this is in regard to credit card payments or other banking information, but it's always best to assume that this is a requirement for you to keep all of this as safe as you possibly can. So, implementing cybersecurity best practices, it's important for all individuals and organizations, and of all sizes. And you to have to protect the personal, financial, and sensitive information for your business or organization. Um, and in other words, if we do this implementation, we are basically indicating to everyone that we are taking action and we're doing something about this so that we know that things are what we would expect. So, developing and implementing a tailored cybersecurity plan and process is key to protecting and maintaining business operations. And this is so very important because if you have this plan in place, it is going to save you a lot of stress and a lot of worry and concern because you will have a plan in place. And I say tailored because everyone is different, whether that be your customers or the business or your organization. You need to know exactly what your data looks like, what you're dealing with, what you need to save, what critical information it needs to be protected, and that is tailored around those things. So, 4 easy ways to stay safe. Always remember these. This is very, very important as you move along in your process. Always use strong passwords and a password manager. Turn on multi-factor authentication and recognize and report phishing attacks and threats. Today, we're talking a lot about our threats. And keep your software and systems updated. So update those things so that they are kept secure. What are cybersecurity threats and ransomware? Ransomware, it's a type of malware that prevents or limits users from accessing their system, either by locking the system screen or locking user files until a ransom is paid. More modern ransomware families, collectively categorized as crypto ransomware, encrypt the files or infected systems, and they force users to pay so that they can then be decrypted once you pay. They also use online payment methods like Bitcoin is a very common thing that is used. And they use resources on the dark web to make all of this happen anonymously. So keep your eyes out for this. We're going to get into some more details. So ransomware or threats can also consist of code or applications created to find your files and encrypt them. So this could be something like a virus, something that is on your system. Maybe you're not aware of it, and it can actually automatically go in and encrypt those files. We'll see examples shortly. The purpose of the attacks may be to collect money or deny you the use of your files or systems or to cause disruption. Now, most people are familiar with this because they hear about it in the news, and this company or agency has had to pay so many millions of dollars to these ransomware people. But a lot of times, this is just to cause disruption. Okay. And unfortunately, there are a lot of bad actors and malicious entities, people out there, even countries that will attempt to cause a denial of service attack, denial of service to your business or your organization, and disrupt things. So that is what they get in return, not just money. And the threats can be real or fake. So what I mean by that is it could be somebody actually behind it, or it can just be something where the emails have been passed around and you just get a copy of that email and it sounds very threatening. Maybe they just want to cause that disruption. Maybe you have somebody who is looking to cause you harm, unfortunately, and this could be something fake. Almost like when people threaten individuals or organizations, they say, "Oh, there's somebody in the building," blah blah blah. So it could be fake, but You can't take any chance. You have to prepare for such things. And it could either be somebody, an individual behind it, or it can be computer generated or automated. So it could just be what we call a bot or something that is an automatic thing and nobody's really paying any attention. But you respond, well, then somebody probably will pay attention and respond to you if you respond to the threat. Here's an example of some of the most common ransomware variants. You could see on the left there, that's the name of a few of them. You can always Google them and look them up. There are quite a few of them. CryptoLocker is something that I've had experience with, as well as WannaCry. These have been out there, some of them for a few years, maybe even up to 10 years. Some of them were very crude. Here on the right, you see an example of a ransomware email message that it's almost like a form email, and we see a lot of this just reused over and over again. And as I said, sometimes it could just be fake. They're just sending it out there just to threaten you, even though there's nobody really behind it. But what do? You have to take it seriously. So you could take a look at that. That's what some of these emails might look like, so that you could recognize the tone of that and what some of these do look like if you ever receive it. Okay. But again, as I said, whether it's fake or a real threat, you have to take it all seriously. Here's another example of an email. Okay. You could see that this is a message coming from somebody. It could be automatically generated, and they're referring to the encryption of the files, and they're trying to scare you and maybe cause some fear. Your equipment is going to turn off. And, we recommend that you move away from the computer and accept that you've been compromised. So there's no hope. You just have to work with us and give us what we're asking for. Some of this, it could be a real thing. We've seen it at UVI where, there is an actual encryption taking place and you may be compromised. But whether it's real or fake, we're taking it seriously. Now, at the bottom of this email, you can see an important clue. It says download and install the Tor browser. Okay, that is something where if you want to get access to respond to these people, which I don't recommend unless that is a very, very last resort where you have no other choice and you have been through every other option. This is what they're saying. Okay, now the Tor browser and Tor project is the dark web. So they're asking you to go and access the dark web with their instructions so that you can communicate with them anonymously. Again, not something I recommend unless you've been through all other solutions and you determine that is the only solution for you. Okay, so types of scams and risks. Okay, because at this point, when we're talking about ransomware and other threats, there are all types of ways that people can try to scam you or ransomware your company, your organization. And we've seen this numerous times. I know that some of this has happened locally in the Virgin Islands. A spoofed phone call from what you think is a known company or bank, such as a request to resolve a payment or update private information. Well, believe it or not, you can get a phone call from somebody, and AI can actually help somebody to make it sound like someone else. So you may be hearing a phone call from somebody you think you know, and their voice sounds exactly like that person. Okay, that is out there. Okay, there's a lot of that technology available, even to people like you and I, to use using AI. You can change your voice to sound like somebody else. Well, there have been people in the Virgin Islands who have fallen victim to this and actually lost quite a lot of money from this scam. Receiving a phone call, you think you know who it is. You may not be talking to who you think you know. How do you prove it? Ask yourself, okay? Be very, very suspicious, okay? And of course, you should verify that before you provide any kind of information, especially things like private information, passwords, login information, bank information. Be suspicious. Spoofed emails, the same way. You see an example of some of the spoofed emails and what they may look like. You could think that maybe you're getting an email from Debbie Moran. You know Debbie Moran over here, right? But that's not Debbie Moran. But look, it's signed Samantha West, right? Or that's to Debbie Moran. You think it's Samantha West? It's not Samantha West. Okay, it's somebody else. That's what a spoofed email or a phone call is. Somebody pretending to be somebody else. So be aware that this will happen. It's a very easy thing to do, pretend to be somebody else online. Text messages, even spoofing on text messages. You think you got a message from somebody? Well, there are ways where people can fake who the phone number that is sending the text message, pretend that it's somebody else. So that's called smishing. Okay. For instance, you get a text message from somebody you think you know saying, buy me some iTunes gift cards and scratch off the thing and send me the PIN code, right? You spend a couple $100 sending some stranger some money. So risky, compromised, or malware-loaded websites is another way that you could be at risk. Some websites have code built into it. As soon as you go to that website, it's going to download information from your computer. It's going to install a bit of code on your computer so it can track you using browser extensions that include malware and other trackers. And it can gather that information and even use AI to process some of that in order to find vulnerabilities. So you have to be very careful about the browser that you use. Make sure it's up to date. Make sure your computer is secure. It's got antivirus software on it and protect you against these websites and browser extensions, malware, and trackers. Okay, so some of the AI threats that we see today include things like AI tools that are used to analyze publicly available information and suggest vulnerabilities for attackers to use. So somebody could use an AI system to look up information about you or your company or your organization and analyze some of the things associated with that and suggest ways that you might be vulnerable. Okay. It could gather all the email addresses of your employees in a list and start sending phishing emails to those employees. It could determine what locations of some of your employees or your businesses are, and maybe to try to take advantage of that information, maybe some personal information of those employees, of you or your business, and determine, well, maybe this person, is doing this on their calendar events today. They're going to be at this location. They know that you're out of the office. There's so many ways that AI can suggest vulnerabilities to malicious entities, okay, and use that against you. You have to be aware that that is out there. As I mentioned earlier, the spoofed audio and even video are used to fool you into thinking you are hearing or seeing something else. Okay, so you might get a video from somebody, maybe even a web call or a video call, and you think that you're seeing somebody else, but that's not really that person. But AI can be used to actually spoof that video. Okay, we've seen that in action already. It can make somebody sound like somebody else, as I've said. AI can be used to do all of that and try to fake that and convince you that you are talking to somebody else. AI coded tools can crack passwords and security encryptions far faster than any human can, or even some of the older code that people have used for hacking passwords. These days, it can be so fast that we need to be extra careful about security requirements that we have. So passwords should be at least 16 characters, and be complex enough so that they can't be cracked easily. Things that are not easily interpreted or read or guessed okay, because AI is very good at guessing those things. And AI can actually use the information that's gathered, as I mentioned in the first step there, can use that information to help guess those passwords, okay, with those personal bits of information about you or your employees. Communication from attackers using AI can be made to seem more real and genuine. Well, so many times these days, we use AI to help us write letters, draft emails, and other kinds of communication to make it seem more professional, more genuine. And AI can do the same for malicious attackers, okay, or scam artists. It can help them to make something sound like something official, like it's from this particular type of business, referring to some kind of transaction that you are doing, or maybe a bank, or maybe a company you work with. And it can draft an email or communication to you to help convince you that that might be real when it's really not. And AI tools are used to help guide attackers on how to take advantage of you, your employees, and your business. Well, if any of you have used AI to help you come up with a plan on how to do something, how to do some sort of business action or a strategy, it can do the same thing for malicious attackers and people who might ransomware your business or you. And it can give them suggestions on how to go about it. So AI is not fine-tuned to the degree where it's going to say it's not going to allow those kind of illegal activities yet. We have yet to see people doing those kind of things. It's still very open and will provide advice on things that you might think is just absolutely crazy, but it will give them a plan on how to attack you, and it give them a whole step-by-step set of instructions on how to do that, unfortunately. So one of the best things that you can do to avoid these threats is to adopt a cybersecurity culture and awareness for your business or organization. And in order to do that, you have to train people and learn to be wary of anyone who's requesting sensitive information from you, even if it appears to be someone you know or a company you trust. For example, a crook may have hijacked a friend's account somewhere, and you're getting an email from them, all it needs to have access to is that information from their account. So all those people that you know, well, they could be potential risks as well. The people that you deal with, maybe your customers, maybe your business associates. If they are hacked, then you may see something like this coming back at you from them. So treat all unexpected requests for sensitive info with caution, even if it seems to come from somebody that you trust. Always double check it. Never share your password or identity information in response to an email or phone call ever, or phone text message for that matter, even if it appears to be from a trusted company or person. Okay, so many times we get these contacts. You say, "Oh yeah, I know who that is," but as I said, if somebody is spoofing that information, that could be an attempt to gain your trust. If you receive an email message that appears to be from an online store like eBay or Amazon, or a phone call from your bank that tries to convince you of the legitimate need for your password or sensitive information, be suspicious. Always access systems using the trusted links. So I'm going to tell you a quick story about one of the most common and widespread scams that is out there today, that is so elaborate, most people have no idea. And that includes getting these phone calls or email messages. And oftentimes, the victims of this will say, "Oh, I owe so and so some money. I need to make a payment. I'm at risk," and they develop this fear, um, uh, from this email or phone call. Well, then the people are then prompted to, share their screen with the attacker. And these attackers will say, "Okay, look, you owe so much money," but they're faking it. Because as you log in and you share your screen with these attackers, they're seeing this, but they copy that. They copy the website. They copy the information. They're so quick to adapt. And they will show you something that looks real, but is really not real. And the people become so fearful that they agree to actually send this payment. And the a lot of times these attackers put such fear into people that they say, okay, don't tell anybody about this, don't tell your family, don't tell the authorities, which of course makes no sense at all. Because if this is real, why would it matter? And so they keep it quiet. And a lot of people have been taken advantage of. They put a bundle of cash in the mail and actually mail it to somebody who is staying in an Airbnb, and that person receives it and forwards it to somebody else, $10,000 or more. And people actually fall for these kinds of scams, and it is far too common. So always be suspicious of these kinds of requests, and know that this is out there, that this may not be real. More than likely, it's not real if they're contacting you, and that they stick to the normal ways of communicating these things and access the system using the trusted website or link. Stay current on cybersecurity events and incidents. So pay attention to the news, pay attention to things that you hear online about what is going on, the current trends, because it helps to identify the lessons learned and what people do to help maintain your vigilance and agility to respond to these cybersecurity trends. So you may hear about some agency or company that has been hacked. Well, now you know what's going on. Now you know they're targeting this type of business or organization, and this is how they did it. So your information about this can help others if you ever have to deal with this. So watching this and listening to this is going to help to keep you aware. So pay attention to these things. And lastly, encourage people to make good choices online. And that includes your customers, your users, your employees, and yourself, and learn about these risks and phishing and business email compromise, so that you understand what to do and how this might happen. So some of the prevention methods are to keep regular backups for a fast recovery and for an emergency recovery offline. So that's two different things. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a second. But backing your data up is the one most important thing that is going to save you from ransomware and many of these threats. You must back up your data. If you are not backing things up regularly, then that is something you need to correct immediately. Okay. Maybe you think, well, I can do without these files. I can figure it out later or something like that. Well, if somebody encrypts those files, you may not realize now how much is really in those files, how important that is, how much time it will take you to restore all of that or recreate all of that. So backing your data up, that is the solution to almost all of this. So keep your financial, identity, business files, and information in a secure location, okay, with cybersecurity protections in place. So that means if it is a server on your network, or if it is a computer that is not networked, make sure that it has antivirus software, it has some sort of protection and a method of backing up those files. Make sure that it is constantly being analyzed and monitored for any threats or malware or malicious code. Make sure that all of those things, the passwords are secure, the login has a multi-factor authentication login. All of those things need to be in place on your systems to keep those critical bits of information and files secure. Train all your employees on how to recognize scams, like we're talking about here, the kinds of scams and attacks, and quickly, how do they report them? What's the process? This goes back to the plan I referred to initially. And that's that next step there. Have that plan in place before you have any kind of emergency or threat experience. Because if you wait until that time, it's too late. You may not know what to do. There may be a bit of panic. You need to have this established before it happens so that you have a process and everybody can remain calm and take care of business and get back to doing things normally, recover and restore. So get that plan in place now before that becomes a problem, even if it's just something where you have one computer and your files, write down all of the things related to all of the computing systems and the network systems that you use, create a plan tailored around those things, and have that established so that you know what to do. And get advice on that if you need it. So, as I said, backups is the most important thing that you can do to prevent these things from affecting you negatively. So, use a modern backup solution, such as encrypted cloud storage. That includes things like Microsoft OneDrive 365, Microsoft SharePoint, even Google Drive, even Apple solutions in the cloud, many others. But make sure that they use cloud encryption and that they use good cybersecurity measures. You can always get a reference to the types of things that they do when you look this up with the service to say how it's protected. Is it PCI compliant? Is a standard that we have to adhere to for credit card payments, for example, HIPAA compliance for healthcare information for users. Do they adhere to those kinds of standards to encrypt and secure your cloud storage and back up your data there? But next, always keep a secure offline and offsite backup of all necessary files and data. So what you want to do is not just have one backup location, but you want to have more than one. So if that first location is compromised in some way, or if it's not readily available to you, you will always have a backup of a backup, something that is offsite, something that is still secured. Maybe it's a flash drive in a safety deposit box somewhere, but it's encrypted or password protected, something that's kept in a safe or something like that. But beyond that, you also have to have and develop the clear backup plan and data retention policy that's as simple to use as possible. So you will have a process documented, okay, where you have that backup plan. I'm going to back up the data every day or every other day. And I'm going to keep those backups. This is data retention policy. I'm going to keep those backups for every day of the month, and then we'll recycle them at the end of the month. So when we get to the last day of the month, the next day you're going to replace your first day of the month backup with a new backup for the next first day of the month. So you recycle the backups and you keep 30 days of backup information. And that is a common backup retention plan, data retention plan. But document this because you need to have that plan in place to keep it simple for everyone, especially the people doing the backups. And sometimes, especially if you ever have to do an audit, you have to indicate that you have that data backed up, and this is where the backup is. And yes, this is the evidence that we backed up that data on this day. Okay, so keep a record of your backups. Maybe it's electronic, maybe the software you're using for doing the backup keeps that for you. But keep that documented, keep it safe, keep backups, encrypted cloud storage, but also offline and offsite is the best thing that you can do. And why is that important? Because if you have a backup of all of your systems, then you are going to be able to recover quickly. So what do? If you are compromised or if you think that there's some sort of attack, ransomware attack, you get an email, you get some kind of communication, you find that your files are inaccessible all of a sudden, you get some strange files or notes or something like that on your computer, don't panic. Don't react by replying to the email or call or the communication. Don't engage in any communication with those threatening you. Okay. That's not the first thing for you to do. They want to instill some fear in you. They want you to hurry up and make a decision. They want you to pay or do something right away. So many times, these threats are not actually real until you respond. And then when you respond, then they know you're there and they've got you. And then the real problems begin because then they know that they can do something more with that and that you are going to communicate with them and potentially pay them. So follow your established cybersecurity incident response plan. Okay. That plan that I referred to, again, so important. When you have the plan in place, you know what to do, you know all the steps you're going to take. Stick to the plan. That's going to keep everything organized. It's going to keep things flowing and resolved as quickly as it possibly can. Finally, or next, contact law enforcement, because if this is somebody who is, holding your data ransom, asking for money, you want people to know about this because, let's say you have insurance or something. If you don't report it to the authorities when it happens, you may be putting that at risk. So you need to do all of the right things. You can contact law enforcement, the local police, the FBI, even get assistance from some of the federal agencies, which I give you links for a little later here. But you have to contact law enforcement. Okay, even if you have the plan and you know what to do, you need to let them know. Okay, so don't fall victim to this fear mongering where they're going to tell you don't contact anybody. We will not give you the code if you contact law enforcement. You don't pay us. In contact law enforcement, it's going to be so much worse, et cetera, et cetera. You want to involve the authorities in something like this, even if it's a fake. It's always good for people to know, especially people who can report it and do something about it, and it leads to an investigation. And it helps to stop this in the future. And get assistance immediately if you don't know what to do. So many of the cybersecurity services that are out there today can be very expensive. People offer the service to help protect you. Obviously, if you do subscribe to some of those services, like an example might be CrowdStrike is a very popular one. But they do charge a lot of money to help to protect you. But they will keep everything safe with you. They will help you to develop a plan and they will give you advice. If you can't afford something like that, then absolutely have a plan, follow the plan, but get somebody that you could call if it becomes an emergency, somebody that you could bring in. Maybe it's you can always contact Microsoft if you use their systems or Google if you use their systems. That doesn't mean to say that they're going to be immediately helpful because they deal with this a lot. And if you're not a customer, then it may be a problem getting some of that assistance. But have somebody to fall back on and have that as part of your incident response plan where you'll know who to call. So, in terms of recovery and what do you do to get everything back to normal? Make sure that you document what happened and include all of the evidence. If it's an email or some sort of message, include that. Make sure that you take screenshots or pictures. Make sure that you take notes on everything that happened every step of the way so that you can remember what happened and remember what you did in response. Sometimes, you have a responsibility to protect the data and everybody will want to know what was done. So the next step, of course, is to let the people who were affected know. So once you've reviewed it fully, you want to go over everything that's happened and provide the information to those affected. Maybe it's employees, maybe it's customers or users. But it's always good to also have some legal advice on this because you want to make sure that you're saying the right things. But we do have an obligation to tell people if their information has been compromised in some way. You see this in the news all the time. people say this because they have an obligation to do it, and let people know, well, you may be a victim of identity theft. So we're telling you in advance. And it may seem like that's not a very good business practice, but it's an obligation and it's something that must be done. But of course, you want to make sure to do it in the best way possible for you, your business, your organization. Review the incident with your employees so they'll understand and learn from the experience. Even if it's just you, go over it and learn and understand what's happened. Okay, even go do some research afterwards and see, well, what could I have done different? What did I learn from this? What should I improve? Maybe I want to update my incident response plan and make sure to cover this next time, do things a little different. That's an important thing, is to be flexible and adaptable and learn from these things. And that's how you're going to learn and recover your system and recover that from your backups that were kept. And now that you understand what happened, you can say, as I'm recovering all of my data, all my systems, the computers, restoring from backup, what happened? Am I doing something that is appropriate to this? You want to erase all those encrypted files. You want to erase the computer. You want to reformat the hard disk drive. You want to make sure that those files are gone so it can't come back and infect you again. So you're learning what you gathered from the incident, and then you're going to restore all of those backups in place. If you're using a system like Microsoft OneDrive or Google Drive or something for backing up and restoring, then you follow those instructions and those guidelines that they provide for those systems in terms of reverting those files back to a time before they were infected. That is an easy way to recover those files, but follow those instructions and what you've learned, okay? And of course, keep that in your incident response plan. Okay, so how to report cybersecurity incident? As I mentioned earlier, first thing is contact local law enforcement agencies, such as the police department or the FBI, and in regard to attacks that we have had before at UVI, we do involve these agencies, and it may not seem like the fastest way to get things done, but it could be a requirement, and you want them to know because maybe it's more widespread than you think. Maybe it's affecting other people, other businesses, and they can help to combat that with the information that you provide. Report minor and major incidents to CISA, which is a very important thing to do when you are you find these things, because they can provide help to you, and this is the Federal Cyber Infrastructure and Security Agency, and they will help you if you ask. It depends on what kind of a business that you have, maybe how quickly you'll get a response from them. But you can find a lot of help there, and you can see using that website what you could learn from them or get advice from them about all of this. But you definitely do want to report this to them so that you can help others with what you've learned. And here's some additional information. CISA, that's their website for ransomware right there, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which puts out a lot of the cybersecurity standards and guidelines that we do follow. The NIST 800-171 standard for cybersecurity is what UVI is following. And it is a good thing to refer to if you want to implement good cybersecurity policies at your company, at your organization. You can look that up, but you can find that at their website listed there in the presentation. Okay, so that is all I have for you. Do we have any questions or anything you want to talk about?
Yes, we do. So going straight to the chat. Thank you for that, Eric. That was a great presentation.
Sure.
So Okay, they withdrew that question because you answered it. But the question, for the sake of those on the recording, it was, what should the recovery plan look like, and do you have a sample?
Hmm. Yeah. So the most important part of that, the most important answer is your backup plan and your retention policy. So that means because there are so many solutions out there for people, there are solutions including like Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive. There's also software systems that you can purchase that will do this and back up your data to the cloud. Um, and following that documentation and that information that you would have from that, you want to basically decide, when am I going to do backups? How often am I going to do backups? And how long am I going to keep that backup data for? Okay. So the suggestion I gave you was to back up the most important information daily, because you have to think, what's going to happen with the business if that data isn't available? What's going to happen if I lose 24 hours of customer data? Or maybe if you have an e-commerce business or something like that, or you have financial information, you can't afford to lose any of that. You have to back it all up. Okay, so you can't lose any of that data. So it should be backed up every day, maybe nightly or something like that, and back it up to that encrypted, secured cloud location, because that's going to be the easiest and fastest way for you to recover your systems from that. But while you do that, remember to keep that offline, offsite backup on something else. Maybe it's an external hard disk drive or USB flash drive, something like that, and you back up those files, even if it's just manually, and you copy the files. Okay. But if you have that, that's the backup of the backup, where if you have a problem with the first backup, you always have something else to fall back on. And you document all of those steps that you take. And it can be very complicated, or it can be very easy. If it's complicated, it's hard for people to do, and you're not going to be as willing to do it. So try to keep it as easy as possible. And the best thing to do is to use some sort of a good product that is widely trusted, and follow their information, their instructions. Anything else?
Yes, thank you for that. Um, Please suggest trusted password saving software or suggestions for people with memory challenges.
Yes, that's a good question. So, when I mentioned about the passwords, because we had another training on passwords that I would encourage you to do as well. But in regard to that, using the password manager, because, and let me tell you, my memory is pretty good, but there is no way that I can remember thousands of passwords. And trust me, I have thousands of passwords. I can't remember all those. So you have to have a way to store and pull those passwords back. And so the one of the best solutions that we have found is a piece of software called KeyPass XC. Okay. And it's good because it is some software that you can put on your computer or on a flash drive even, and it stores those passwords in an encrypted local file. Remember to still follow those backup policies I referred to, back that information up. But that encrypted local file means that, unlike a lot of the cloud solutions today for storing passwords like Dashlane or LastPass, or even Microsoft's built-in password manager in their Edge browser or in Chrome, those systems can get compromised and those passwords potentially stolen. Most of the time they're encrypted, and to decrypt them would be far too much work for the average person. But if you have that file local and encrypted, it means that others on the internet could not steal that from you without doing a lot of other things that we've gone over here today. So I recommend that you look at that and maybe learn about that application, because that will help you to keep all those passwords secure. And it is one of those things that we do recommend and use.
All right. Thank you for that, Eric. I'm sure your response has been helpful. I don't see any more questions in the chat at this time, but I'll double back after making a few announcements. So, the VISBDC has so much more in store for the USVI small business community. You can visit our website at www.vispdc.org. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe to the VISBDC YouTube channel for uploads of our webinars. We encourage you to download our mobile app from the appropriate app store on your device. And Eric, we have another question before I segue
Yes.
into the trainings that are coming up.
Yep.
Is that KeyPass XC?
Yes. KeyPass XC. X as in xylophone, C as in cat.
All righty. So I guess that's the website there in the chat. So let's go ahead to the VISBDC training portal on our new website. So I'll go over and so I just want to make sure that you are able to find what's coming in terms of training. So you would select training, small business education. This is how the page would look with a lot of relevant information in terms of our curriculum and our format of our trainings. You select sign up, and you will see what's to come. So let's mention what has already passed. So for you to view webinars that are in a pre-recorded format, we want you to go to this page, pay attention to the type of event, select on demand, search, and there you go. For those questions regarding password security skills, Eric did a presentation with us a few weeks back. And so this is where you'll be able to access that training for more information, in addition to the other trainings we've held in the past. In terms of what's to come, let's always select live. And so on February 3rd, we have our SBA district office. Wayne Huddleston, he'll be presenting on growing the USVI manufacturing sector with SBA resources. We have our Apex Accelerator. There's a training coming up on February 5th. That's going to be a webinar. That starts at 10 a.m. Your business ID, building a government-friendly capabilities statement. On February 10th, we return to having our SBA district office give a presentation on disaster mitigation, disaster preparation and mitigation for your business. The time to plan is now. February 19th, the VI Apex will be returning to present on building past performance, winning government contracts when you're just starting out. I want to go ahead and skip to our 2026 tax basics for USVI small businesses. That webinar will be happening on February 25th. It's going to be jam-packed with lots of information from the IRB. And so that presentation is going to be 2 hours. It starts at 10 a.m. and we should be done by 12 noon. So this is our website in terms of how you access our training portal. And we look forward to you registering so that you can be in attendance for whatever workshops we have coming up. So returning back into the meeting, I don't see any additional questions at this time. So Eric, it's always a pleasure working with you and your team on this initiative. We've done about 3 consecutive cybersecurity series annually around this time. And they have been very helpful. Our clients continually check in, whether it's through our YouTube channel or when they sit down with their advisor. This information is at their leisure and they can get access to your PowerPoints that have those clickable links so they can get to the resources as soon as they can. So thanks to you and your team. And so to everyone here in attendance on behalf of the entire VISBDC network, compliments of our interim state director, Ms. Karen Jones. We want to thank you for being here and wish you a productive rest of the day. So check your email. You'll have a copy of the PowerPoint. Fill out that survey that lets us know how we're doing and take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.